Chuck Wendig is in the news again, getting fired by Chuck the Cuck Wendig getting fired by Disney Lucasfilm after his massive Twitter meltdown. Uh, I mean, it all falls into place. I mean, we it seems like we lose one and then we win one. We lose this battle and then we win another. We lose a Piron, but apparently we get a Chuck Wendig is out the door. Thank you, Lord. Uh, this guy was openly hostile towards Star Wars fans who criticized some of his works on social media. He was very hostile towards conservatives, alienating the audience, making Star Wars very political, and he showed that. Uh, he showed that in his tweets after the Kavanaugh hearing, especially. And you saw what he was saying there, something about eating babies or something like that. It's just all kinds of. He was just going off on Twitter, and people were just laughing their asses off. And I thought that was a treat. I really did. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Brett Kavanaugh, for all this meltdown that you've caused. Even though it kind of sucks to have your reputation ruined, but you've given you've gifted us so much more. But anyway, let me show you some of that. All right, so this guy, coming from the guy that said in his tweets, "Sing along with me, saying you don't want politics in your stories, is itself a political opinion, and it means you just want to see your politics in stories instead. And stories have always been political because politics is about people and power, and so are stories." Next verse, and if you say that thing about stories being apolitical, it's probably code for I don't like certain people showing up in these stories, people acknowledged and with agency, which probably also means you don't like those people showing up in real life, you jerk. Oh my god, the soy in this. Oh my god, the soy. Whatever will we do with you, Chuck? What would we do without you? We wouldn't have this comedic material to lampoon. But it's funny. It really is. Yeah, you're supposed to be apolitical. You're supposed to not divide your audience. And this guy has been doing this for so long, and fans have been so sick of it. Finally, Disney is doing the right thing. Finally, they have fired this clown, and it's just like it's about time. I mean, because he gave us such classics like this, and his rants and people who are just like, oh, the old expanding universe was trash, blah blah blah. You just read some of Chuck Wendig's uh, books, and you'll see just how much better the new one was. The new expanding universe is. Oh yes, miles ahead of 1995's book by Stackpole or even Timothy Zahn. Like, look at this. I mean, hang on, let me pull this up for you. 1995. I mean, I Jedi, Michael A. Stackpole. Luke Skywalker had told us at the moment of Alderaan's destruction, his master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, had said he felt a disturbance in the Force. Anyone who could label what I felt a disturbance could think of Hutz as cuddly. The hollow shock one feels when told of a close friend's sudden death slammed into me at light speed. My conscious mind searched in vain for an identity to attach to that feeling. finding a way to contain it, but the hollowness opened into a bottomless void. Not only did I not know who had died, but I would never have a chance to know them, and that seemed the greatest tragedy possible. I mean, just wow, the language just paints a picture right there. Flashes of faces, snippets of dreams, laughter aborted, and the sweet scent of a newborn's flesh undergoing a greasy transformation into roast meat all roared through me. Thousands upon thousands, millions upon millions. These images and impressions came into a whirlwind that screwed itself down into my belly. Hope melted into fear, wonder into terror, innocence into nothingness. Bright futures all planned proved the ultimate in morphability. When a fundamental truth in these lives proved for these people, there had never been a question of whether or not the sun would rise tomorrow. And yet, in an instant, they were proved wrong, and the sun reached out and devoured their worlds. That was like poetry. That was that was genius. I mean, and it was just like that was the era of Star Wars books that I had grown up reading. And then I feel so bad for kids now because look at this. Look at one of Chuck Wendig's classics, Star Wars Aftermath. Just one sentence. The TIE fighter wibbles and wobbles through the air, careening drunkenly across the Mirren rooftops. It zigzags herkily-jerkily out of sight. It sounds almost like something out of a Dr. Seuss book, and it just it just makes you wonder, like, how is this guy seriously an author for a Star Wars book? Like, is this how low your expectations have become? Yeah, and so personally, I'm glad he's gone. People that were saying, "Oh yes, the EU is trash." This is one of the reasons why no real Star Wars fan takes you seriously. All these Disney fanboys who are saying, "Oh yes, Star Wars Legends. Yes, we're glad it's gone." You'll never get literary works like this ever again. Yeah, thanks to this dick move by Disney, uh, basically getting rid of everyone who was a part of uh, that Legends era of books, that era of Star Wars where people actually gave a shit when they were writing, and they weren't just writing, oh snap, because I'm on a Star Wars book, so I can just say whatever I want. These idiots will buy it. You know, they these people actually wrote for the fans, and they did not uh, undermine the fans' intelligence. Uh, this just screeches of I don't care attitude, and I'll just put whatever I feel like putting on this sheet of paper because these morons are going to buy this book because it has Star Wars on the cover. And I'm Chuck Wendig, and your opinions don't really matter. And if your opinion differs from mine, then you're a racist, sexist, xenophobe. I think he said it pretty clearly himself that he definitely wants to try and inject politics into his stories, and he doesn't care about your stupid fan opinion because he's an arrogant douchebag. Yeah, that's why no one likes you, Soy Boy. I mean, and then yes, making Star Wars, Jason Ward, and you saw my video on him. One of the key Disney dick writers, him and Steel Wars or whatever uh, his name is. Don't buy Star Wars comics anymore. Just don't do it. Oh, really? Really? After he retweeted, Chuck was fired over his tweets by Mark Paniccia, or some kind of Italian name. The same Mark Paniccia that apparently thinks Ethan Van Sciver is A-OK since he follows the man. It's like, what has Ethan Van Sciver done? Like, really? How is he? What has he done except proven that he doesn't follow the groupthink in in your elitist sort of realm uh, in the comic book world. What has he done except pulled himself up by his bootstraps and said, "You know what? I'm gonna make my own comics, and I don't have to follow you. I don't have to follow your blatantly politically charged, lefty ideology, your SJW ideology. I don't have to be a part of that. I can start my own company. I can become a competitor." And you over here now, all of a sudden it's cool to boycott Star Wars when we were saying, oh yes, we're all right people, we're all alt right baby men, yeah, and we're all foot soldiers of neo Nazis, yes. But when you do it, oh yes, it's great. Don't buy Star Wars comics anymore. Just don't do it. Really? Okay. Okay. So when we were boycotting Soilo because you wouldn't listen to the fans, oh no, that wasn't cool. Oh, but when we should boycott Star Wars comics now because Disney won't let this SJW author continue to bash the fans or something. I don't know. I don't know what this fool's logic is. Yeah. And of course, this is his response. I know it hands Comicsgate a big win. Wait, hold up. Let's go to his firing tweet. Let's go to the tweet where he was actually fired. All right. So basically, this is this is him after he got fired. After his whole, they will tell you to smile, need to get back to business, but blah blah blah. You need to fight back against this bully. They can eat shit. All of them eat a boot cover. After telling people that, then he wonders why people don't like his ass. He was saying, so here's the thing that happened. I just got fired from Marvel, taken off issues 4 and 5 of Shadow of Vader, and taken off an as of yet unannounced Star Wars book. This might be a long thread, so apologies in advance. Today I got the call. I'm fired because of the negativity and vulgarity that my tweets bring. Seriously, that's what Mark, the editor says. I mean, yeah, because maybe the editor doesn't want doesn't need this politically charged shit in his in surrounding Star Wars. I mean, surrounding the books and surrounding sales and sales figures and whatnot. Maybe he doesn't need that to affect how well a book sells because the fans are revolting against Chuck Wendig being a douchebag to at least half of his audience, basically isolating them and saying you're not welcome here. Calling everyone that disagrees with his political ideology neo Nazis. I mean that if you guys don't get that by now, that is what is alienating fans. Dubbing everyone neo Nazis when they're really not. They're just people that just don't agree with you politically. Um, you know, then I don't know what to tell you. You deserve to get fired. You deserve it. You really deserve to get fired. You're like the most stereotypical, soy boy, like definition of cuckoldry. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone can get further left than Chuck Wendig, and I'm just like, if you're gonna work there, I mean, don't cuss out half your audience. Don't. These are things you just don't do. I mean, you deserved. Basically, it was because I was not civil. Basically, because I was not civil. Yes, we know that, Chuck. Uh, you don't say, oh yes, it was great that Roseanne got canceled. Yeah, you're the reason why all this bad stuff is happening to liberals. I mean, like people like you. I mean, if only you could just take a look in the mirror when it mattered. We already know how narcissistic you are, but only if you could. But you can't self-reflect a little bit about your actions and how they affect relationships with fans. Uh, you don't think about stuff like that, and it costs you. In the end, it hurts. It hurts you. And so as a Star Wars Legends fan, I am grateful to God that this weak pathetic excuse of a man has been let go from this company. Um, I mean, I would have done it years ago. I mean, I would have done it as soon as he started taunting um, people of a certain political belief. I mean, because that's alienating a certain aspect of your audience. That's alienating fans, and it's not smart from a business perspective. And especially if you work at someplace like Disney. I mean, like, come on, like I may have my beliefs, but I'm not like, yo, I'm not on my personal account like, yo, I mean, on my professional accounts like, yo, I hate this guy, or, you know, like, we should execute him and this and that. I don't go, I don't, I mean, professional coasts and personal coasts are two different people. Uh, and I don't, I try not to mix my professional side and my personal side because like George said it can be disaster. I don't know how many of y'all watch Seinfeld, but he says meeting of two judges. But yeah, it's the truth. Like you can't let the two sides meet, especially like in a setting like that. Like um that's why I basically have two accounts everywhere. I have my personal feelings where I get to rant and rave and whatnot, and they don't know it's me. And then I have my other account, which is basically a professional account, where I'm civil and I say what I want to say, but I don't rant at people. I don't like throw hissy fits online. Yeah, I try to avoid that. It's not professional, and companies see that, and especially now where they're trying to stalk your every move. Um, especially now. I mean, this guy was so political in everything that he did. I mean, he was such a lefty that it was just like the soy was just seeping through every page of his writing. I mean, he's probably one of those idiots that believes there are like 5 million genders and we should respect pronouns and all bullshit like that. Yeah, and I think one of his books. Hold on, I have the scan right here. Yeah, he he actually tries to say, uh, he tries to use those z freaking pronouns, and I'm just like, what? It just it's it's hilarious. It must be quite a surprise Z thinks watching the Corellian CR. It's just like who talks like that? What kind of retard talks like that? Yeah, I don't even think retards talk like that. Z knows that sensation. It's like they're trying to push this so hard. Yeah, and now it's just like become apparent how much of a political tool the for these social justice warriors, Star Wars, they're trying to make Star Wars into. It was highly apparent in The Last Jedi. It's highly apparent with Chuck Wendig and his utter disdain towards conservatives and people that don't agree with him, politically. And that's the thing. That's the new left. You either agree with me or you're a Nazi. Yeah, because we're always the good guys, and that's not true. You know, one of my favorite lines, you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain, and I think the left is seeing themselves become well, they're in denial about the fact that they are now the villains. Uh, they are now the bad guys. They are now, in spite of all their preachiness about tolerance and accepting of diversity. What what really drove a point home to me was one time when I heard Steven Crowder say that the only diversity they don't tolerate is diversity of thought and opinion, and that is the absolute truth. They are scared to death of diversity of thought because they want to have one big group think, one big sort of mind meld hive mind, like like the freaking Killix or whatever, where you're just another NPC, a background character, a non-playable character, yeah, in this game called life. And you come with your pre-programmed responses to every situation, you know, any kind of issue. You have a pre-programmed response built in by your mass media overlords, telling you what to think, what to believe, and yeah, if you don't follow that, then you're shamed into submission and called all kinds of labels and names and blah blah blah. Uh, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, different packaging. It's the same. They become the very thing they sought to fight. And it's their time. Their time is just about over. People are very sick of political correctness. People are sick of Antifa. People are sick and tired of having these cowards, these SJW, fools who don't live in reality dictate to them, how they should feel, or who they are, or talk down to them, to the people, especially in these companies. You're talking down to your audience like they're scum, you know, or at least half of your audience, because SJWs, they don't care about comics. They don't. When I was in high school, I didn't see no SJWs buying comics. They're the people that will criticize comics, for some, because they heard about something controversial in the news, but then they don't buy these comics that they criticize, or they'll buy one and then it's on to the next outrage. It's on to the next thing to be upset about, the next thing that their overlords tell them to be upset about, that they should be protesting in the streets, rioting for. And it's pathetic. It's like, how can someone be so weak minded? I feel, I hate to say it, but like, it reminds me of that scene where Jabba just like clocks his Bib Fortuna across the head. There's such a hive mind when someone breaks from the hive and just says no. When someone stands for their principles, and their beliefs in front of their shaming tactics, yeah, then they don't know what to do. They don't know how to feel about it. The, I'm glad that they finally took this action, because it was going to hurt them in the long run. I mean, Marvel has already not been selling that much. Their sales had been dropping off because of all this SJW propaganda they've been putting in their comics, instead of trying to tell just a simple story. And it turns people off when you try so hard to push an obvious agenda, and it's so obvious. And Star Wars has never been about politics. It's about, I told you guys before. It's about what happens. It's a story about family ultimately. Um, Politics may be an aspect of Star Wars, but it's not like commentary on what is happening at the moment. It was never designed to be a contemporary political commentary. It was designed to be a story about an archetypal hero's story, a hero's journey, um, through adversity, through strife. It was supposed to be a story about family, family coming together in spite of tragedy, and forgiveness. Those were the three aspects um, of Star Wars, and redemption. It was that was what it was about. And now it's about, how diverse can we make this cast? How how many transsexuals and pansexuals we can fit into this storyline, and uh how many planets can we destroy? How can we make the Death Star bigger and better and can destroy a whole solar system? It's just like, how can we take these concepts and rehash them? It's just like, that's not creative. That's not what people want. People have told you this, and then instead you're trying to say that they're not real people. Okay, all right, whatever. We try to warn you, try to warn you, uh, but you wouldn't listen, and this is the result of that. All right, it's your boy Coast. I think I've said enough. All right, peace.